on Monday's inaugural Central Indiana Sports Central, your daily look at the Central Indiana sports landscape. We talked to Michelle Garmon of the Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader about the good news, bad news day of the Indiana Fever, plus updates on the Colts and Pacers from Will Retherford. A look at the NL Central with the Greencastle Banner-Graphic's Codey Emerson, and the first ever Greg and Michelle in the morning.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Menkels.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Central Indiana sports fans, and welcome to Central Indiana Sports Central, where we talk about everything Central Indiana sports. I am your host, Greg Mengel, and today we're going to be talking about the Fever, the Colts, the Pacers, the Reds, the Cubs, and we're going to be talking with Michelle Garmon of the Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader on Greg and Michelle in the morning. Coming up at the end of our roundup, Michelle, we're starting today with the Fever, though, and a lot of good news, a lot of bad news. The bottom line was today the Fever came back with a great come-from-behind victory, 99-93 in Connecticut, but also the injuries continue.
Yeah, it was a great comeback. It was a great comeback. They won in overtime. Kelsey Mitchell, an unbelievable performance, but probably the biggest story of the game was Sophie Cunningham going down with a right knee injury. Was in obvious pain on the floor, was helped off to the locker room like 10 minutes into the game, and she never returned. I feel sorry for Coach White and everybody. It's just been a season of bad luck for the Fever in terms of injuries. You know, and unfortunately,
incredible. The last 2 weeks in particular.
With not much time left in the season, this is what I call this is a debilitating injury for me, and that doesn't, and I believe it still is, even if Caitlin Clark comes back. And I'll go into that a little bit more about Sophie Cunningham. You know why I think it's why it hurts him. It's
Michelle, the Fever are saying they won't know anything until Monday. To be fair.
No, right. To be fair, she was just in a lot of pain, and I don't think Sophie is one to be overly dramatic when under an injury,
right,
when she goes down in pain.
And no one tougher than her.
Right. Now, that is the bad news, and like I said, I might touch on that again, more on that later, but what an incredible performance, second half performance by Kelsey Mitchell and her teammates and Coach White. And
an
Stephanie
MVP
White,
level performance.
Yes, and they're calling for her to start getting some serious MVP consideration. You know, she scored 34 out of her game high, career high, 38 points today. And I saw where the 38 points scored today is the most by a single player in the WNBA this year. And she was
on just 22 field goal attempts.
Yes, and she hit two huge three-pointers in the overtime, and then Lexi Hall provided the dagger three, but Mitchell, I think she scored their first 10 points in overtime. She has stepped up her level. I felt bad for her because her only, what I would want to say is for her, the only stumble was the last game, you know, when they fell behind to the Wings and they had a chance to come back. And today, the Fever don't come close to rallying if Kelsey Mitchell doesn't play like she did today in the second half.
Incredible. Good news is their next game isn't till Friday, so they'll have some time to recover and have a game plan no matter what the news is. Friday against the Lynx. We will have our next Fever report on Saturday with you and John Robertson.
They've signed Odyssey Sims to another 7-day contract, and my guess is if Sophie Cunningham is out, her contract will be for the rest of the season, would be my guess. They will just automatically extend her for the rest of the season. My final thoughts on the Fever are, you know, today, it was a great win. I know it was against a bad team, But they also struggled and lost a game against Dallas the last game, and here lately they've been struggling to finish off. They can make runs, but finish them off. But the day they did that, it's huge for them, especially now, like you said, they almost have a week off, which is good news. I mean, whether or not Cunningham's injury is multiple weeks or not, if it's just bad enough, it gives her time to rest that. Plus, it also gives these Fever players that are having to play a lot of minutes right now a chance to rest their legs.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Next up, we're going to hear from Will Rutherford about the Colts' performance on Saturday against your Packers, a win by your Packers, and about the Pacers' schedule release. And we're going to hear from Codey Emerson on the NL Central, the Cubs, and the Reds.
I did tweet this yesterday, and I said you can tell the difference between the organizations and their recent successes, because the Packers, they didn't play their once.
That's right. And when Peyton Manning was great, they didn't play either. So that's just kind of how it goes. Thanks so much, Michelle. This has been a lot of fun, and we will hear again from you in just a few minutes. Joining me now on Central Indiana Sports Central is Will Rutherford of Strictly Biased with Will Rutherford, here to talk a little Colts, a little Pacers. Will, did you take anything away from the Colts' 23-19 loss to the Packers in the preseason Saturday?
Blake Freeland's loss is going to be big. I mean, having your swingman tackle and 6 offensive linemen go out with a season-ending leg injury. Week 2 of the preseason's rough. I take away that I think it's time that Anthony Richardson is named the starter. He looked good again. Not that Daniel Jones didn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just see the upside with Richardson, that if he's not your starting quarterback, then you know where this season is going, and you're admitting that you're not trying to be the best possible football team you can. Outside
Coach
Steichen
said he is very close to making a decision for the starter, and so that's got to mean Anthony Richardson.
I agree completely. I think that Tyler Warren has shown that he is going to be an NFL star and is going to be heavily involved in this offense from week 1, which is exciting because I think if you're going to draft somebody in the first round, he needs to be ready to carve out a big role in your team as a rookie. Overall, I can't take a ton away from. They're still playing simple offense, simple defense, but the team looks like it's going to be able to contend. The starters look like they're ready. I think it just comes down now to polishing up some stuff and getting ready for week 1. Big one against the Dolphins.
Looks like they found something in 7th-round draft pick Hunter Wohler in a huge need. It's kind of a safety linebacker position. He injured his foot in the game on Saturday, but hopefully he'll be fine. He looks like a guy who's going to contribute.
I agree. I think that he has made it really hard for this coaching staff to not get him playing time in some capacity. Hopefully, you'd love to see him beef up a little bit and potentially play the second linebacker next to Zaire Franklin. I don't know schematically if that's going to make a ton of sense, but I see them working him into the field. I think that he's going to provide some level of value to this team, and for a 7th-round draft pick, you feel really good about getting that.
And it looks like the Colts have a kicker.
Yeah, I mean, he's the real deal. I said it week 1. They should have kept him out of camp last year. He was better than Matt Gay, but they owed Matt Gay so much money that he was going to get the nod. I'm excited for Spencer Schrader. I think he is going to be really good.
And a kid with some local connections, so we like that.
Absolutely.
As well.
Notre Dame.
Let's turn our attention to the Pacers. The Pacers schedule was released on Thursday, and it looks like a pretty tough start to the season. Interesting that Milwaukee's coming to town early. Interesting that the Pacers open the season at home against Oklahoma City. Anything else you take away from the schedule and your thoughts about it being front-loaded?
I like it. I think that they just need to weather the storm. They're going to get on a roll and be playing their best basketball come April, and I think that's important. To me, the NBA schedule doesn't really mean a whole lot. They're going to get some. They're going to not get others. It just doesn't really matter. A couple injuries here or there, people taking a night off, and all of a sudden what looks like a really tough game all of a sudden becomes a game that you expect to win. So I think any Pacers fan overreacting to the schedule so far is just kind of being silly. There's no reason to see how injuries play out, see how the Pacers actually look. I mean, this could be a team that looks really good, and you like their matchup against almost anyone. So I think at this point you just have to take the schedule for what it is, hope that you are right, that it's front-loaded, and that you don't have a couple surprise teams that make the back half of that schedule look a little tougher.
You admit your bias, obviously. It's in the title of your new podcast, which is coming out on Tuesday and Friday this week. Friday will be a look ahead to the weekend. Tuesdays will be more of a wrapping up the weekend and talking about whatever's going on in the sports world from your Midwest, Central Indiana bias.
Yep.
Well, how much does it matter to you what the world thinks of the Pacers and the Colts in Indiana and that they got 9 national television games and once again don't play on Christmas?
I don't give a shit. I mean, I like when the chips are stacked against us. I like when the Pacers and the Colts are the underdogs. I like when nobody's watching, when nobody cares. It makes it better.
All the better.
It makes it more fun to be a sports fan. It makes the glass half full mentality when they ultimately come back and they surprise everybody. You're allowed to grandstand and just kind of dog on people a little more. I love it.
Thanks so much, Will.
Yes.
Once again, tune in to Will's podcast, Strictly Bias, every Tuesday and Friday afternoon, evening-ish, and looking forward to it, Will.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Now I'm joined by Codey Emerson of the Greencastle Banner-Graphic and our MLB guy, a co-host of our MLB report with Paul Tipton. This week also had Will Retherford, and that will be out a little later Monday. Codey, the NL Central is the home division of the Central Indiana Sports Report, and the Brewers have just been on fire, but the Reds got a win on Sunday to kind of salvage a series that was kind of interesting.
I don't know what kind of witchcraft that they've summoned, what sacrifices have been made, what gods they've summoned, whatever phrase you want to use. I keep saying I still don't believe in this team in October. I'm sorry, I don't. I'm just going off history. They've had runs like this before, maybe not this good, but I still don't trust them in the postseason. I think they're going to cruise, probably, unless the Cubs get really hot and the Brewers get really cold, to the division crown.
And Codey, the Mets beat the Mariners on Sunday Night Baseball, and they now have a 1.5 game lead on the Reds for the final wild card spot.
I'm going to hold out hope, and this is just pure bias, really, but I hope that the Reds kind of leapfrog them because Lowell Mets is in full effect.
Because Muck the Fets.
I'm hoping that the Reds can pull it together. I'll jump on the Reds bandwagon for the last couple of months.
Join Codey and Paul Tipton and Will Rutherford on this week's MLB report coming out at 1 o'clock Monday. Thanks, Codey.
You bet.
And now for Greg and Michelle in the morning. 10 minutes looking back on the sports world over the last 24 hours. Today with Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader sports editor Michelle Garmon. Here to talk about the Fever and some high school sports starting in earnest this week. Michelle, we are making history, the first ever Central Indiana Sports Central, and Greg and Michelle in the morning. Just talking about what happened the night before. And Michelle, what happened the night before was the Fever got a win, but it was probably a bad day overall. And also, I would like to talk some high school sports with you since it all begins in earnest today.
It's still fresh in my mind. Let's start off and we'll...
It's your 10 minutes.
All right. Let me start off with the Fever. Sophie Cunningham, we already said that. That looks like it could be a serious to semi-serious knee injury that will keep her out maybe multiple weeks. Good scenario would be if it only keep her out a couple. Bad scenario if it keeps her out the rest of the season, just because it comes on the heels of the Ari McDonald and the Sydney Colson injuries that were season-ending. Good news is Caitlin Clark, I think she's really working hard on her rehab. She did not make the trip to Connecticut today. And Stephanie White said she did not go because she stayed back in Indy to really continue her rehab. I think she's pushing to get back on the court. If Sophie is done for the season, it'd be nice to get Caitlin back, but I still don't think, even with Caitlin Clark, because I'm not sure she'll get to what you want to say, 100% or end of season
No,
level. So
but it'll be nice to get her some minutes before
yes,
the end of the season, and it'll probably get them into the playoffs at least.
I just think if Sophie can't return, I think that the Fever they can get to the playoffs. I don't think they'll find a lot of success in it, and I think they've been great at playing through adversity, but you can only lose so many. The bad thing about Sophie is they've already lost one of probably their best defensive guard especially on the point in Ari McDonald. You lose Sophie, you lose another tremendous defender, and that only really leaves you with Lexi Hall as what I would call and Aaliyah Boston. Those two are what I call grade A defenders. Right. And so that's kind of hard then when you make the playoffs because you're only playing the best teams. So
And Sydney Colson's injury is magnified because the other injuries are to the other point guards, and so that becomes a huge one as well.
Odyssey Sims played well today, don't get me wrong, but on the defensive end, you can tell she hasn't played for a while, and she's going to be a nice fill-in, but it's just not the same. So, hey, let's turn our attention to high school sports.
All right, it really begins today. We've had golf for 2 weeks. Well, Saturday, these sports really began, but they really get started Monday and Tuesday. Cross country, soccer, tennis, volleyball, and then, of course, football on Friday. And we talked to Coach Toll earlier this week. He's excited.
Yeah, he is. He said it's one of the best off seasons he's had. They've kind of changed up some of the things they did. It went well. It worked out well. It should be a good year for the Blue Devils. I know they lost some really key pieces, but they have a lot of young talent and maybe a little bit more talented depth, just because, like last year, some of their depth had to be provided by, like, freshmen and sophomores, but now they're sophomores and juniors, so it makes it that depth is a little bit better. And it's always nice when you return your quarterback. So I'm looking forward to Friday night. I'm looking forward to going over to Frankton and watching Tipton and Frankton play. Like Aaron talked about, two longtime coaches, they're former rivals. Marty Wells is coach of the Elwood Panthers, and with Aaron as the head of the Blue Devils, along succeeding his dad. This is, I think, Aaron's 21st season. Man, I'm getting old, Greg.
I want to talk a little golf here in a minute because, like I said, we've had 2 weeks, and it's been a really good start for Tipton and for Lapel this week. But volleyball begins on Monday, and Lapel and Frankton. Looking forward to seeing what happens in that one.
Tipton actually began their volleyball season on Saturday. They were at a tournament at Cardinal Ritter. I don't have that yet, but Coach Henry's always good.
They went 2-1. They beat Indiana School for the Deaf and Purdue Polytechnic, and lost to Ritter. All sweeps.
The volleyball team is going to be interesting. I haven't talked to Coach Henry yet. When you lose a Cora Rotoball and you lose your setter, like 3-year setter in Lacey Bittner, it might take a little while for all of that to gel. It'll be interesting, but the one thing I can say this about Tipton, they will be scrappy, and I do think that our area volleyball teams will probably be pretty scrappy this year. I'm anxious to see how well they do. If everything goes right tomorrow, I plan on covering Tri-Central at Elwood for girls soccer, and then I think I may head on down to Lapel to catch some Frankton at Lapel volleyball.
Outstanding. I may just see you there. Michelle, a lot of interesting golf results so far in the girls' season. By the way, we have our girls' golf report every Friday. You're going to want to tune in for that. We'll have the headlines, players, performance, and team of the week nominees and winners. Noblesville won the Lapel Invitational on Saturday, Michelle, but Lapel was really good too.
They played at the Edge, which is Lapel's home course, and they usually play pretty good at the Edge. And Annabelle Marshall, who went to the state last year, was just sensational, shooting a 69, and then Lapel shot a school record 309, that's really, really good, especially for a 2A size school.
And Michelle, the Hamilton County Girls Golf Tournament was on Wednesday last week, and Carmel beat Noblesville by 12 strokes. I did not see that coming. Maya Fujisawa Kuling, the freshman from Carmel, shot a 69. She might be the top player around. I'm going to be interesting to see what she and Taylor Snively do head-to-head this year.
I was out at the Tipton Golf Course on Wednesday to cover the Tipton-Frankton girls golf match along with Anderson was there too, and I was talking to Diane Butler, who is Josie Butler's mom, and we were talking about the golfers and how good these golfers were, especially down there. And Carmel's number one, Maya, she's a freshman, and Snively's a sophomore, and she said that both of them are just very sweet girls too, and that's always nice to hear. She said they're just very friendly and everything, so that's good. I'm anxious to get the chance to see them play. If I will be probably kind of hard unless I end up down at the state finals again. So, and I might, because I'll tell you what. Of course, Josie Butler got there last year, and she's playing pretty solid. But Kenny Lancaster had a really good week for the Lady Devils this last week. She was the low medalist in the win against Frankton. She was the low medalist in the next night against Hamilton Heights, and then she was 7th overall on Saturday. And the Lady Devils shot a 345, which is not bad for them. Josie struggled a little bit. I think she low 80s, maybe 82, 83. But Presley, Cherry shot pretty well. 4 and 5 still needs to get them a little bit more consistent. But yeah, not too shabby. The Lady Devils they've got 3 solid golfers. If they can just get 4 and 5 who don't have a lot of experience continue to improve, it'll be good for them for the conference and maybe give them an outside run, that maybe a shot in the sectional to advance out. Although the way Lapel's playing right now with Noblesville and Hamilton Southeastern in that sectional and Fishers, that will be a tough chore.
Michelle, we'll have a full girls golf report on Friday with, again, player performance and team of the week nominees and winners. And we will have a report on every sport this week. We just won't have all the nominees yet because we have to have a full week before we start doing that for volleyball, tennis, soccer, cross country, and football this week. Thank you so much to Michelle, Will, and Cody for joining the inaugural episode of Central Indiana Sports Central. And thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget later today at 1 o'clock. Believe me, all times are tentative, but about 1 o'clock today, the MLB report with Codey Emerson and Paul Tipton is out. And later this evening, the first ever cross-country report. We'll be talking to Yorktown Cross Country. Please do us a huge favor and share this podcast with a friend and help spread the word that the Central Indiana Sports Report is here talking about sports every day. Thank you so much. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.